Welcome to Metaphysical Mississippi. I'm Emily Hester, your co-host, along with Krista too. And we have Hadley Thorne with us today. She is a fiction author, as well as she does many things in the podcast community. So we're going to let her share what she's got going on. She's going to share some of her first metaphysical experiences with us. Hey Hadley, how you doing?
So excited to have you.
Yes.
Well, it's great to be here, ladies.
Yes. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We know that you are a Mississippi-based author, and you write. Is it fantasy?
It is a combination of what I would say paranormal, urban fantasy, apocalyptic fantasy. It's just all over the place. A little bit of romance. It takes place in Mississippi, so they say write what you know. So I place it in Mississippi and South Louisiana, my stomping grounds, and that's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of Louisiana in you too?
Yeah, my dad was from North Louisiana. I have a lot of family down in South Louisiana. So
we're sisters.
We do too.
I grew up going to Grand Isle every summer, Grand Isle, Louisiana, and so I incorporate that in my second book. I've got a new book that's about to be released that takes place in Natchez, and it is a fae vampire romance, and it takes place on both sides of the veil. And I'm using Emerald Mound as the entry to fairy, and I'm calling it Emerald City Under the Hill.
Oh my goodness, I got chills when you said that. I love.
We're very familiar with Emerald Mound.
Yeah.
It's where I have my vampire court based at. I basically have built a world, and the first book takes place in 2020, which I started writing it when the pandemic hit. So I kind of had to take a different road than I was originally planning. But I did incorporate the pandemic into what I wrote because I felt like that was an important part. But then it dives off into a lot of basically magic comes back into the real world. And it's after a series of apocalyptic type events, which is like there's a series of earth changes. The Mississippi River runs backwards. Well, guess what, guys? Since I wrote this, the Mississippi River has run backwards twice.
Yeah.
Before that, there was a hurricane, I think in the 1800s, that made the river run backwards all the way to Missouri. And so I thought, well, that'll never happen again. Boo, guess what? So take a little bit of everything and put it in there. Well, like it is a labor of love. I wrote this book, quit my job in 2019. I'd been in nonprofit, an executive nonprofit for years. And my mom, just her health, my dad had passed away. And so she moved in with me. So I took the time. I thought, what can I do? I can't take the time to go to work. Because her care just needed it too much. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to write a book. So what am I going to do? And I took the time and I wrote the book. And immediately upon finishing it, I started the second book. And then I kind of got caught up in the podcasting world, and which y'all know I do Weird Realities podcast, which we're coming up. It's our second year, but it'll be our third season kicking off on Halloween. So I'm a big person for hidden gems or Easter eggs and everything I do. So if you live in Mississippi, you want to read my books, there will be a ton of Easter eggs for you. And also with the podcast, like I said, it was the Samhain 2020. I mean, what kind of epic date was that? So yeah, it's just been an incredible experience. So
yeah. So did you always, like as a child, would you lay in your bed on a summer afternoon with a good book and say, I'm going to be an author one day? Or did it just kind of?
Well, I love to read, and just always had a very active, but I'll tell you the truth. If you want to like do a deep dive, which if y'all don't mind, I'll tell you a little bit.
We love deep dive.
What started me on my journey, and I say this is my journey of truth and knowledge, is that ever since I was a small child, I'd say younger than 5, I was astral traveling. I was having dreams to alternate dimensions. I had questions because I knew I was having dreams that come true. I have a very solid dream life. And that was something that I always had questions about because I knew it wasn't bad. I knew it was witchy, but I knew that it didn't make me a bad person. And so that
Mhm.
kind of turned me off of the experiences I was having with organized religion. It just didn't sit well with me. My grandmother was someone who had dreams that came true. In the family, it would be whispered about, your grandma's kind of witchy, and my little sweet mama was just incredible. But she's just like one of those old, kind of folklore grandmas, they just
Mhm.
had all their little plants and, their little things they did. But so I grew up that way. And I will say that I was lucky enough that my parents they didn't force me to go to church. They let me kind of find my own way. So if I wanted to go with church with a friend, I could go, but it was always very oppressive to me. It just never
Mhm.
felt natural. And when I started finding these books and seeking these answers for like the dreams, or my uncle is a Native American. He's of the Paca tribe out of Oklahoma, and so I'd been around a Native American spirituality there, and I really just there were so many different things that kind of led me to where I'm at, and I would say that I was looking into Wicca. From Wicca, I was like, well, that's not it. That doesn't answer my questions. So then I started looking into witchcraft. Again, it had some stuff just not that wasn't the answer I was looking for, and it took me years. And I finally found my aunt, which this is so crazy. If you start looking at this stuff, one of the main things they start telling you when you're doing the Wicca thing is, well, you need a matron goddess. You need to,
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
goddess that you identify with.
Mhm.
So I'm like 18 years old, and I don't have a clue. But my family's like from Ireland, and so I was like, okay, I love horses, so I'm gonna go with Bridget. She's the one, or Rihanna. I like the song by Steve. If you just
Oh, me
my
too, me too.
and then I decided on Freya, and I was like, I don't know where this came from. I had no idea where it came from. And since then, Freya has become the main leader in my life into figuring out who and what I am. And a lot of the magic that is associated with her and with Odin is dream trance magic. It's
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so when I started finding these things out, well, I had originally, again, like when I was 18, I thought, oh, Freya is just a goddess of love. Well, y'all, Freya is the leader of the Valkyries. She is a goddess of love, death, and magic. And I was like, now that makes more sense. So I started having these dreams about her. And then years later, now for years, I don't see one crow, I always see two. So when I got my little witchy name, Raven was that was like my totem animal I identified with. And it wasn't until probably in my 40s that I realized someone said, Odin's God stalking you. And so I made peace with that. And it was very much like the pieces of me started coming together then. And since then, I formed a relationship, and I'm very comfortable with my Norse deities, and have found out that through ancestry and research and all that, that one of my relatives was actually on the ships of the people who first discovered Iceland or inhabited it. They were
Wow.
I
Isn't
can't
that
just
neat?
float. Yeah, and so it really made everything started to make sense. Was that okay? There's just like a little piece here, a little piece there. So all this is stuff that I put into my writing. And it also is what led to the creation of Weird Realities, which is what gives you your inspiration to do what you're doing, whether it's your
Mhm.
personal path, whether it is, self knowledge or finding your truth, or if it's, writing your books. Where's that coming from? And that's just kind of how we got started.
Oh,
I
that's
love that.
awesome. That
And like I said, I'm not a big reader, especially I mean, I like to thumb through books, nonfiction, I'll thumb through them. But when I do indulge in fiction reading, to me that is kind of a dreamy state. Like it puts me in a kind of dreamlike
And
state. So when you were saying that to me, that totally made sense with the dream travel. We get to travel through fiction and literature. And I
Well,
don't know.
and I will say this, that when I started studying shamanism, that was really when everything came together, and it was like, excuse my language, but it's like, oh wow.
You can say
Here,
it.
here,
Yeah, it's all right.
holy shit. It was at that moment where it just, everything just flooded into me, and it was like, this is what I've been looking for, because it's about the altered states. And
Yes.
Uh,
that was, I can achieve an altered state very quickly, very easily. I've since, I think in 2019 I had a soul retrieval done. It was a life-changing experience for me. I can't say enough good things. I did that through New Sun Energy Works, and it was incredible. But it was one of those things that put the pieces together, and really was, so I wasn't crazy. These experiences that I'm having are validated. When I went to a shamanism workshop, I started talking about, I saw that when we did the upper world journey, I completely saw this crystal city, and I'd never seen a crystal city before, and I was like, what the heck is this? And then I was talking with the teacher about it. She's like, I know where you were, I've been there before too. So we're talking about the same place, and she's like, go back through and just kind of Google it, and look around online, see what you find. Well, I found there are a number of artists that have created the same imagery that I'd seen, and that was like, again, that validation. um, I feel like that's one of the big things I'm an advocate for with a lot of these things that we're doing with weird realities, and here you're doing it with Metaphysical Mississippi, is being a source of validation and connection with other people. Because if we're not talking about these experiences, how do you know if it's true? And Krista, I'll make you laugh talking about Bigfoot. Because I see this in the Bigfoot community, which, just so everybody knows, I'm a big supporter and friend of Lauren Smith of Night Callers Productions. She's been doing Bigfoot research. She started off, her mother was one of the first women that was really active in the South doing Bigfoot investigation. And
I
she
need
took
to check
Lauren.
her out. I need to check her work out. Yeah.
Well, Lauren started going out in the woods with her like 13 years old, So she's been Bigfooting her whole life, but she's very much someone who, she's never seen a Bigfoot. She'll be the first person to tell you, but she goes out there and does the research.
Mhm.
She's not going to believe it until she sees it, but she believes it's possible. But she's great.
d-
But one of the things I've seen there is that a lot of times people might see something they don't realize that they saw until they're talking to somebody else, and someone else is sharing that experience, and they're like, "Oh my god, that happened to me." And that is
Mhm.
something that, you know, it's a, whether it's metaphysical or paranormal, we all need to have a checks and balance system. But if we're not talking, how are we going to know?
Exactly. And just theorizing. Sometimes when we're talking, we don't know for sure, but the sharing the experience, the what ifs or the could it be's, or um that's still important, and we're not going to get answers until we ask the questions.
Hmm.
yeah.
And so that's what I love about your format, and what we're trying to do is to help people foster an environment where people can feel safe to ask the questions, and then to
Yes.
share their experiences with, while detaching from the burden of giving the answer. We don't have to have the answer, but make it safe to ask the question and
Yes.
share the experience. And
I love it.
I just love the work you're doing, and you can
Well,
do
I
that
feel the
through
same way.
fiction writing too. Like that allows people to ask the questions in their imagination, because so many things start in our imagination and then
Well,
become
and
reality.
that was one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, was it gives me the format to talk about the stuff that I wasn't in a position to talk about at the time. I think, like I said, this was in the midst of COVID. Everybody's on lockdown. People were home. I was home with a sick parent and unable to, have people over. So contact with the outside world was very limited. And this was just kind of my way of saying, hey, these are questions I have. And hey, this is something that really happened. You're never going to
Mhm.
believe this, and putting it all out there and letting people take it and process what they want. And sometimes people will process nothing more than I need to be prepared because, it's about
Yeah.
being prepared for the unexpected, which I'm a long time zombie apocalypse prepper. And
Mhm.
people have always laughed about it, but I will say this, that, COVID didn't impact me. I had toilet paper,
I was gonna ask, did you have toilet paper?
Girl, 2 weeks before they did the shutdown in Mississippi, I went to Big Lot and Home Depot, and I got a ton of stuff because I'd been watching it. I mean, I worked in healthcare, and I knew that
Mhm.
this was a big deal, and, it was gonna impact us, and it was gonna impact us for years. So, people, looked at a lot of preppers like they were crazy. And and don't get me wrong, I'm not someone that's got an arsenal and, a Foot Locker full of food, but I do have, I had medicine on hand. I had bottled water in case I needed it. And I had,
Mhm.
canned goods for a couple of months just in case we needed them. But,
Yeah. And,
it's
and
smart.
Katrina taught us that too. I mean, Katrina,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
what I would tell everybody, because when I was, at the time when I was doing that, I was working with a group of people that lived all over the country, mostly on the East Coast. And I was like, well, y'all need to be prepared because Katrina taught us, you don't take anything for granted.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
The,
So,
hurricane season will do that. Hurricane
yeah,
season or the zombie apocalypse, your pick.
it's the same crap. So,
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
as bad.
And that's what people never, they always would say, oh, zombie apocalypse. It's like, if you're prepared for the zombie apocalypse, you're prepared for anything.
yeah. And if you prepare, maybe it won't happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I'm going to ask a question just because I don't know much about shamanism, but what is shamanism?
Well, I think that's probably different for everyone. It's definitely not a religion. It's one of the things that you go to different places, there are different types of shamans, and there are different names for them. So, I mean, we have the Aborigine, they call them clever men, but they're
I've heard of
basically
it.
the people who have the ability and the sight to see, and they're healers, they're helpers. Um, I am not a shaman, so I'm not gonna even try and tackle what the reality of it is, but basically they're like medicine men and women that help people in the tribe and the community. Like where
Okay.
we have psychologists today or therapists, you had a shaman then. And one of the, I've again doing research and all, I found all kinds of incredibly insightful articles and things that other people have done. And one of them was talking about a shaman from
I have a cat in here.
Central or South America had been brought to the United States and taken to a um, mental health facility, and that there were people in the mental health facility. He said they weren't really sick. There were some people who were sick, but there were people who they had entities attached to them. And they're the people that can see that kind of sickness. And
Mhm.
not everybody can. Have I think we all have psychic abilities, but I think some people have them stronger. I think some people can learn them better. Just like with anything, like with music, you know how you have these idiot savants that they hear Beethoven once and can play it like they're have been studying for 50 years. I think it's the same with anything, and I use the word magic because I like it. But
Okay.
anything kind of magically oriented is the same way, but it's all natural. And that's the thing that I think I really liked about the shamanism was that it's all about the natural world, and that these things aren't miracles. They're not necessarily, it's just a different way of doing things. So I
Mhm.
don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I haven't really officially experienced shamanic work, but I have done different protocols to go into altered states. I've sound technology and hypnosis, past life regressions, life between life sessions. And do you think that's a similar experience someone has in a shamanic journey? It's just a different label, because I felt like in some, not in all of them, but some of those times, some of the imagery that I saw some of the things, the feelings, the situations that I encountered were similar to what I've heard other people describe in a shamanic journey. Do you
Well,
have any
I think
thoughts on
that
that?
I do. I'm just trying to figure out how to address it. I think that everything's multi-layered. It's like when we talk about dreams, I have past life dreams. I have dreams where a panda bear is chasing me with cotton candy and there's a unicorn running, on a rainbow. And to me, that's the I might have eaten ice cream too late in the night kind of dream. But then you'll have those where like you're flying. And to me, that's astral. If I'm
Mhm.
doing like for me, I mean, it's usually like I'm trying to pedal and ride a bike or something, but I'm in the sky. But that's just my way of doing it. But I know those are different. So for me, when I reach an astral state, it's like I'm dreaming, but I'm awake. I'm conscious
Mhm.
of everything around me. When I had my shamanic, when I did the soul retrieval, I worked with the shaman personally on doing that, and we were having the same journey. Like we would get finished with the journey and come back, and we would talk about what she saw, and I would tell her what I experienced, and she would fill in blanks or something like that. And so it was incredible. We go back to the word validating. It was incredibly validating because
Mhm.
I knew I was doing these things, but I never had anyone do it with me. Now,
Yeah.
I've had a friend that in the metaphysical community who I used to, we would like set a time apart, you know, and like we would both, let's say, go walking. So I'd go to the track and go walking. And then when we would get back, we would call each other on the telephone and I would tell her what I saw. So like one time I saw like her with it wasn't necessarily I didn't see her, but like it was like I was looking out from her.
From her perspective,
Yeah,
yeah.
from her point of view, and I could see, like, what she had on. So I look at, like and it's like a football jersey, and she had a football jersey on, and that's kinda what I saw. It's like I saw something with a number, and, so it wasn't like I couldn't see what she was seeing. I wasn't looking around, but that was just like I could see looking down, like, from her, what she had on, and
Mhm.
um, so it's like a shared experience, I guess, kind of remote
Mhm.
viewing, but we would just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
play around to see if we could do stuff like that. And it's having someone again for the validation that, yeah, this is what I have on. I went to a class with Mississippi local Duane Cure for the dream study class that she did a couple of years ago. I
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
and it was great. And it was again one of those validating experiences. And there were people in that class who were stronger dreamers than I am, and I consider myself a fairly strong dreamer. And
Mhm.
then there were people who, they couldn't remember their dreams at all. So it's
I don't know why I've been hesitant. It's not a fear, it's I think it's a laziness thing. I think where I've
well
been hesitant
when you're
to
ready.
yeah, yeah, because they say, "Oh, you gotta wake up, you gotta journal, you gotta do I'll set all these intentions," and I think maybe I'm making it be more difficult than it has to be, but I've had those dreams where I wake up, I was like, "That wasn't no dream.
Yeah. Well,
That was real. That
when
was
nine
real."
11 happened about 2 or 3 days before 9/11, I dreamed about this huge castle that was burning. And
Mm,
it was like a very dark dream. Everything was all flame. That this castle tower that was burning was had really black, horrible chart. And I can remember this dream like it was yesterday. And it was just a terrible, terrible dream. But I had no idea what that was about. I mean, but
till
you look at
3 or
it
4
2
days
days
later.
later and you're like, holy shit, I had this dream about this tower that was engulfed in flames and it was, this terrible rotten feeling. And you start seeing that being psychic or being connected to your inner voice or your subconscious mind, the great all, whatever you want to call it, that you just have to it's not something that's easy for everyone, and it's learning how things are speaking to you. And that was, like I said, it's just little things like that, being able to talk about that. But so many people don't look back at their dreams, like, and if you have a dream that you remember so clearly 5 years later that you can tell me in detail what it's about, let's look at that dream because there's a reason why you have that.
Journaled a dream or a meditation experience. I'm not very consistent with journaling, but occasionally I do, and I will occasionally somehow run across it, and it's like I had totally forgotten about it, and I'll read it and it's like, oh my God, I can't. And so that does make me think, how many things am I missing every day or every night?
You
But
would
then
be
I just have to,
surprised.
but then I just have to trust higher self or source that, okay, when I need to remember it, I hope I will remember.
Well, and I don't write down my dreams every night. I'm not good that way. There's so much other stuff always on my mind.
My question is, you're talking about connecting, you've kind of done some family research, and that your grandmother, or was your grandmother right, that had the same prophetic dream ability,
Mhm.
correct? Now, do you think when you researched your family that you awakened, your creativity was awakened, and then you started writing, but some of those things that was spawning this creativity is because you tapped into the history of your family?
Yeah, but no,
But no,
I don't
okay,
feel like it's because always been writing. I've been writing since I was a child.
right.
No, I had always been writing. I had been before I was writing, I was drawing. It was always telling stories, always telling
Yeah.
stories. And I'm just a storyteller. And I think that's one of the things when you look at the shamanism, it's about storytelling.
Oh, gotcha. And that's why you connect. Okay, that makes sense.
I guess so. Looking into your ancestry definitely validated the things you were exploring.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know I'm putting words in your mouth, but
No, no.
No, I would say that that last finding out that I did have the Icelandic and Norwegian, Finnish background um, in my ancestry, that was not something I expected at all.
Okay.
So it was validating on that as to maybe there was a tie to that, that ancestry.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure because I don't know anything about it. My mother had no idea. From what we knew, her people were from Ireland, you know, and so this is much further back. But if you know anything about the Norse, was the Vikings did the great raids, and they would take women and children, especially from Ireland. In fact, that I think like 50% of all people in Iceland have um, Irish genes. So
Yeah.
there's a big crossover there genetically.
Yeah. Well, I might, if Emily's okay, I was going to transition to the book if this is
Please
a
do,
good
Chris.
time to do that. Is it a trilogy that you've?
Yes, but I haven't written the third book yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So I'm on the first book, part one, and so there is a lot of. It's making me want to go back and I may take a deep dive into the Norse. So I won't give anything away, but the magic you speak of in the book, the symbolism you're using, is that more Norse, or is that Celtic, or is that the same thing, or are they?
Well, it's a creative interpretation of both.
Okay, because I was hearing both of them in there, and
Mhm.
I was going to bring that around and ask you, does that
Well, it's little
your
things like
heritage inspired that
well,
world?
what I tell everybody is this is the book I would want to read. It has all the stuff I like in it. So
Yeah,
everything is something I've probably researched a little, but no, the Celtic and Norse pantheons are very heavy in it because that's what majority of my research is. There is some Korean stuff, I think, in the second book. My
okay.
main male character in the second book is half Korean. And so I did some research into that. I'm a huge fan of like Chinese fantasy movies. I don't know if y'all watch
Okay, so we're
those.
going to get to know him a little better.
Oh yeah, and see that was the
I
whole
know who
reason
you're
I wrote
talking
the
about.
second book. Yeah, I wrote the second book because so many of the people who had read the first were really shipping Erica and Felix. And I was like, but no, what about her? Because she's engaged and her guy's in the military. And so, he couldn't be there. And so the second book is dedicated to him and his mission, but it's taken time. It takes place at the same time. So there's a lot of Easter eggs in it for the first book. So it's a
Good, good.
standalone, like the guys can read it and they don't have to read the first book, but but it's written from the male perspective, and but it does deal with what's going on with her too. Well, and I've got another book that's about to come out. I'm finishing up the last chapter today, and then I'll be doing all the marketing stuff for it. But it is the one that takes place in Natchez. But
Well, this is a good
I
time.
don't
Yeah, tell
know.
us about it.
So it is about this she princess. She's a Tuatha De Danann princess that they have come over in the 1700s. The Tuatha De Danann have left Ireland and they've come to North America. And they settled at what we call Emerald Mound, but I'm calling it Emerald City under the mound or Emerald City under the hill in the story. And so she sneaks out and she goes to this Irish pub in downtown Natchez on the river, and she pretends to be human and she plays in a a band. So she plays the fiddle, and one night while she's on stage, this very handsome vampire comes into the bar. And that was all she wrote. So no, I actually wrote more, but I'm not going to tell
Yeah.
you.
I
But,
thought
so
you
it goes
gave it
back and
away.
forth. It goes back and forth on both sides of the veil. But this is the name of this book will be Dawnbreaker, The House of Blood and Sun, and it is a tale from the Tapestry of Worlds, which that's what my other books are. So I'm just world building, and that's one of the
So,
things. And I don't know, Krista, if you've noticed this, but I have a lot of really strong characters that I'm going to be doing other books for. My
uh,
guy that's reading the story, he read the second book for me, and that's Ransom. He just when I listened to guys, I listened to probably 130 something voice actors, and I
mm,
came across Christopher Koch, and he's from New Orleans, but now he lives in Little Rock, and
ooh,
he's in law enforcement. He's a former Marine, and he is got the sexiest damn voice.
I'm enjoying his narration. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
all the girls like to hear him talk. So
yeah.
yeah, he just and even the guys, I actually had one of my an author friend of mine, David Muka, had he just released two books, Radius 1 and Radius 2, which I'm reading, but he had read my books, and he's like, that guy's voice. I said, I know. I knew the minute I heard it, this is Ransom. And I told
Yeah.
Christopher when we were talking, I said, you're going to have to read the whole series for me. He won't be reading like the romance books that I'm doing as a spinoff, but all of
Mhm.
the main, because the Tapestry is probably going to be about 9 books total. So there's
Wow.
just 3 in Erica's story, and then the other ones will come out because I
Yeah.
had this story that I've told with Erica and Felix and Ransom. It's really like the backstory for the other books that I wanted to write, but I had to write these first so everyone would
Hmm.
know where I was going. So
Do you already know where all your stories are going, or do you let
no,
it evolve as you're writing?
it evolves as I'm writing.
I
I'm
love
very
that.
organic, and which I need to not be as organic as I am, because I re-listened to the books and I'm getting ready to write book 3. So there's stuff that happens I forgot. Totally forgot about. I was like, oh my gosh, that was good. What were you thinking? You know? So
It's like in real life, we forget things that happen
yeah.
in our own lives. So
I,
of course, you might forget
Well, I
something
mean,
you wrote.
it takes so long to write it. I mean, it takes a couple of months to write it, and then you got to do all the other stuff, and you know, so.
I
But
would,
yeah, so I wrote these in 2020, at the first of 2021, and now we're here it's going towards the end of 2022. So, like I said, getting ready to write that third book, I needed to reread them to kind of catch up.
what do you do in a typical day, writer? Do you have your days ordered? Like, I've got to be sitting at my desk by 9 a.m. Or do you just you don't have to divulge everything that's going on in your life, but
Usually late night. That's when
you're
I
a late
write.
night worker.
Well, it just seems like during the day I'm doing podcast stuff, getting stuff ready for social media, getting just organizing like what we're going to be working on, posting things, and then just communicating with the crew, which is that
Yeah.
we're a bunch of cats. It's hard to hurt us, you know. A typical day, there is no typical day. I'm not someone that's supported by their writing, so I do have to do other work, and depending on the work I'm doing, it just, you know, like I said, it can be 12, 16-hour days, and then 7 days a week, and then nothing. So, and just focus on the writing, or try to focus on the writing, and then some days you just got to walk away. Like I would say in the last 2 weeks, I've worked on 4 chapters, and I've written 3 of the 4 in the last couple of days.
Yeah. I
but
was going to ask
but
you.
it just, some days you just can't. It just won't come together.
Yeah. So, and do you find, even if you had all the time in the world and no constraints on your schedule, do you find that would still be how it would work? That you, instead of chipping away at it, like I'm going to write for 5 hours a day. So yeah, that would be good discipline and consistency. But sometimes you just got to wait for that muse, and then when that muse hits, you're
Yeah.
just writing and just taking a break to sleep, eat, or go to the bathroom. Is that how it kind of works for you?
Well, I'll say
If
that.
you could let it be that way.
Yeah. Well, when I originally started off with the idea of I'm going to get up just like I'm going to work, and I'm going to do this and do this and do this, and then it's like, okay, but I mean, it's just really just depends, because one of the things I'm trying to start doing is, even if it's crap, just write something, because at
Mhm.
least then you can edit it. And if you have something that's not that great that you can edit, then you can turn that into something great. But if you don't write anything, then you got to start all over again. Which
Well,
that's
and sometimes that sitting, being consistent at it for a little bit might give you that spark. And that's how it is with me in other areas of my life, is that I have to do it sort of consistently. If I always waited for inspiration, I may not do it. But then if I'm
well,
doing it, then the inspiration hits. And I'm like,
and I think we talked about this a little bit when we were talking the other day, but you know, I had pretty much I've been working on a Kindle Vella last summer, and that's what this book that I'm about to release will be. It's the reworking of the Kindle Vella. But I got a job that kept me occupied all day and all night. So I had time to do the bare minimum of the podcasting, but not writing. So I really
Mhm.
put podcasting ahead of writing for a long time, and that's where I'm trying to get back with the podcasting. Is I've got a spectacular team of people, and I want to give a shout out to their wonderful selves in a
Please
minute,
do.
but
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
they really make the podcasting easier for me. I've got, which Weird Realities is the podcast. That's what we started off with, Weird Realities. Well, then we got invited to do some nonfiction author interviews. And that just took us down a whole new thing. So we started doing interviews. Well, I originally had wanted to go from nonfiction to fiction. So I started making a move that way. I did a panel for the Netflix movie Army of the Dead, because I'm a huge zombie fiction reader, and
Oh, yeah, I
that
saw that. I watched some of those. Sorry, go on.
and yeah, and I got some really good people to step up and come on the show, and one of those people was Alan Gamboa. Alan Gamboa is a retired peace officer out of California. He lives in Nevada now with his wife and family, and he's incredible. And we started doing another show in addition to the metaphysical stuff, which was a show called Watching Weird. Well, Watching Weird took off and it became a fan favorite. We ended up last year, gosh, it's been over a year now. Scott Baker came on the team full time, and Scott Baker is a retired CIA agent. He has written a ton of books. Scott's probably written, I can't think of all the books he's written. Alan's books are like he's part of the group of authors that do the Five Road to Texas, and he has some standalone books like Zombie Island, um, Dead Island, and I can send you a list of all of them. But again, incredible writer. Alan was friends with Rich Restucci, who is, I always say this, I'm such a fangirl for Rich Restucci. He wrote a series of books, um, the Run series, and it's a book series called, I think it started off with Chaos Theory, but they're zombie apocalypse, but they're really prepper books set in place in a zombie apocalypse. But he is a fantastic writer, and I knew him before I knew any of these guys, before I was writing. So, when I say this, and trust me, I love to say it, is every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, I get to hang out with one of my favorite writers and talk about bad horror movies. And
Oh, that's so much
that's the coolest thing that I can say about me is I'm
yeah.
the luckiest kid alive. But yeah, so the four of us get together and we started doing that. We go live every Thursday, if possible, and we talk about movies. But we do another show called Weird Awakenings. The Weird Ink sessions were the ones that we did the interviews with the authors, and we kind of, Joe Hansen is another spectacular author, which I don't know. I don't I get fiction writers. He's incredible. He's all over the board. He's done a book called Wayward Son. He's done a series. I can't think of the name of the series, but it starts off with a book called Splinter, which is one of the most terrifying books I've ever read. And then he did a book called Sunny, which Sunny is about, it's written from the perspective of a chimpanzee that was raised by a human. And it's a story of Sunny. And Sunny, in his owner's old age, the guy knows he's got cancer, he's about to die, and so he's trying to find a home for Sonny. Well, he dies before he finds a home. So it's
Mm.
the what happens to Sonny after that, and it's written from the perspective of the chimpanzee, and it's incredible if you
Wow.
like that kind of stuff, which I am. That's something I would read on my own
Mhm.
without anybody, saying, "Oh, read this." But
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but Joe Hansen came on board, and he was doing the Weird Ink stuff, and he said, "I'd really rather interview some fiction writers and talk about like writing and like what tips I have for new writers or for, so he started this show that we do called Lowballing with Joe Hansen. And it's under our weird umbrella, and they get together. I call it the man cave, but he gets together, him and Alan and Rich get together with some incredible writers that are both traditional. They also get publishers, voice actors, just people from all over the writing industry to come in and talk. And they just talk about kind of like their journey and their books and stuff. So it's kind of cool to listen to people who are really doing it, you know?
And I do. I just love that of colleagues supporting each other and
Well, and
helping. Yeah.
exactly. And I think I mentioned Weird Awakenings is Morgana Calder. She's a Mississippi girl that she does a lot of the esoteric research. We've been friends for years. That's how we became friends, is that we were in a ladies group that got together and just kind of talked about all the stuff we're talking about right now. And when I needed someone to help me with the esoteric part, because I was getting very author heavy with my support system with Weird,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's not me. I'm all about the woo. I want the esoteric stuff. I want the new age. I want the let's talk about people who go on ayahuasca trips and what they see, and
Right.
that's
Right.
my kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And so I
Yeah.
didn't want to get away from that. And so I reached out to her, and she's been phenomenal. And when I first got started with Weird, I got a off Twitter, this guy messaged me who is with a podcast called We're in the Folk. And they're an Appalachian based podcast. They talk about conspiracy and folklore and local legends, cryptids. They're just all over the board, just like we were.
Yeah.
And they have become some of my strongest supporters and best friends in the, I hate to say industry, but kind of in the industry.
Yeah.
And two of them will typically come and join Morgana. I'm on and off as I can. And then we have a friend by the name of Stephen Hill, who, when I started this journey, Stephen Hill was he was introduced to us by Lauren Smith at Night Callers, and he's a Bigfoot cryptid researcher. He is also a Sunday school teacher. He's amazing.
I love it.
And he is one of the smartest people you will ever meet. And so he brings this, and he came on as a guest, And I was like, y'all, we're keeping Stephen because Stephen adds so much to this conversation, and that's me. And that's one thing I
Mhm.
want everyone to understand is I I'd never prescribe to one religious sect. I believe there's truth
Mhm.
to be found in everything, and that more importantly, we have to find what speaks to us as individuals, because
Mhm.
we very much have our own individual experiences in life, and you can't expect what works for someone who's not had those experiences and understanding to kind of see where you're at if it's that foreign to them. And
Right. Mhm. I'm
so
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's why I love Steven and having him there, and he blows my mind because a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about with you, like the dreams and stuff, Steven does. And
Mm.
he just, you have that knowledge of truth, that the kind of awareness when you're talking about it, and it's like, I'm so glad that someone who's so different from me understands this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we do is, like I said, we're all over the place. We're all different personalities. Um, like I said, Scott is this incredible writer. He lives in New Hampshire. So that's one part of our team, and then we have Alan, who's incredible, and he's based out of Reno, Nevada. So we're all over the country. We do all kinds of different stuff. We've got writers, metaphysical researchers. We've got local girls from Mississippi. I've
Mhm.
got a friend that she's a Sunday school teacher too, and she does voiceovers for us. She's a voice actress, and she's incredible. But she does a lot of work for us. We've got a guy in Texas that's a Bigfoot researcher, but he's also like a sound engineer, and he helps us out sometimes if we need something done with our sound, which we haven't been doing lately because he's been working really hard. But
Mhm.
it's yeah,
So
we just do us.
so how many so that's several, what, 3 different podcasts, or are they all on the same
Well,
feed?
we
How
all
can
do we
people
do it
find?
under the Weird umbrella.
Okay,
So
they're
it's all
all
under Weird Realities. But we do a true crime show. We call it Weird Murders, Mysteries, and Mayhem, which which we've done. I've got another girl that I know. This is a personal friend of mine. She's a psychologist. So she's a behavioral health specialist. She's got a lot of experience doing, I guess, rehab therapy on men who have abused their wives and wives who've abused
mm,
their husbands. So
Mhm.
she's someone, when we do a true crime show, like we did one on the McDonald family murders that happened at Fort Bragg, which I don't know if
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably remember that.
Mhm.
It happened, there was a show on TV, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but that was a really good one that we did. And we all just get together and we do the research and get together and talk about it and what our thoughts are. And like I said, everything we do is about, we want people to walk in to feel like they know us and they're sitting down with their friends.
Mhm.
mhm.
Do y'all announce the subject the week ahead of time so people can kind of watch? I mean, does the
On
audience know what you're going to talk about a week ahead of time?
on Weird Awakenings, we've got a list up on our website, and then we also, for watching Weird, we will do like a promo, like starting like tonight. I'll probably put out like what we'll watch next week. So if anybody wants to watch the movies with us and put their, because we do a live chat, and we have a crazy chat room, guys. It's, you would not
Oh,
believe, it's like adults only in there. They have the best time. And we just kind of go with it. But yeah, we have a great chat room. But we'll put those movies out like this week. Tonight we're doing, like I said, it was not scary horror movies. So I want to say Scott picked Eight-Legged Freaks, Alan picked Spaced Invaders, I picked Idle Hands, and Rich picked Night of the Comet. So these are,
so y'all each watch different movies. Y'all aren't talking about the same movie.
oh no, we watch all of them. The four of us will watch all,
Oh,
we
y'all.
try.
Yes.
We try to watch all of them.
Yeah, and I think I've
Okay.
heard most
We
every
all
one
pick
of
one.
those that you've
But
said.
like last week my movie was Evil Dead 2. So I'll talk about like what I thought of the movie. And sometimes I have to say, I'm so sorry, this movie sucked. Because if I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, sometimes it's just something I want to watch. But yeah, this movie this week is one that I'd seen and I enjoyed, so I wanted to pick it. But
Now this
these are like October was my month to pick all the movie subjects, so we usually take turns. And if you join our Weird Realities podcast page, it streams live from there. A lot of us are featured authors in a group called Horror Writers Inc. And it's got about 23 featured authors in it. And it's people like, which I don't know if y'all read horror, but Jonathan Mayberry is one of the authors, Rich Restucci, Sean Chesser, um, Jay Bauer, D.W. Hitz. These are all fantastic horror authors. Mike Evans, I've mentioned him, Jamie Hernandez, J.B. Havens, Bethany Stutzman, Sylvester Barzy. It's some really good people, which yeah, they're incredible. Which we get together and we'll do like panels with them where we talk about Sandman. Like we got together recently and did a Sandman one. We're
Mhm.
Alan is supposed to host a group to talk about the what is it, the Dragon show on HBO.
Oh, Game of Thrones or House
Yeah,
of Dragons.
House
House
of
of Dragons.
Dragons.
Yeah,
And so he
yeah.
said he was waiting until it was over, and I'm about to die because I've been like so engrossed in this show. But the girls and I get together sometimes and we'll watch a documentary. And we call it the Wild Women of Weird, or
Love
those
that.
weird wild women. But basically we get together, we'll watch a documentary and get together and talk about it, because I have these friends that they watch these things and they're like, did you watch this? You've got to watch this. So I was like, let's all watch them together, then we can talk about it. But we're
Yeah.
also incorporating Handmaid's Tale into that because we like to talk about Handmaid's Tale too.
Oh
But
yeah.
but that's something that we started recording the live shows, but it's not really going to be promoted probably until the new season starts, which our new season starts November 1. So
Oh,
Super. I'm
gotcha.
excited.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah, it's a little podcast that could, because we never thought anything was going to happen with this. My partner that started Weird Realities with me, she edited my first book. Her name is Gracie Ellison. And Gracie and I did a RH negative blood factor talk. And that was our first episode of Weird
Oh,
Realities.
I watched that. Yeah.
Well,
I watched
it was
that
the
when y'all
worst
dropped
ever.
it. I
It
listened
was
to
the
it.
worst. It was so horrible. We wanted to redo it, but it has gotten more views than anything else we've done. And we're like, I did not know that. We were going to redo it. That's one of the shows that we have coming up, is we're going to redo the RH negative, because it, we want to do it better.
Right.
And so Emily's the metaphysical virgin, but I'm still in the honeymoon newlywed phase. But mine, now we've been spiritual all our life. I mean, we grew up in a strict Christian, basically cult, but a strict Christian household. And a lot of these things that we're exploring now were definitely taboo, but we were having experiences all different at different levels and stuff. But as far as being open to spirituality, we've always been, open to that. But because of our upbringing, it really did take us till later in our adult years to allow ourselves to explore these things. So our
Better late
middle
than never.
yes.
Well,
So,
I think that we're at a time in our world where it's very important to connect with that goddess energy. And I'm a firm believer in there is one God. You can call it God, you can call it goddess, you can call it the universe, whatever works for you. And that energy talks to us in the way in which we need. And that a lot of times people actually change religion because they've changed. And that's what we do, is we learn. I mean, if we didn't make mistakes, we didn't change who we are, there would be no erasers on pencils and all that. But
right.
I think that, like I said, it finds a way to communicate with us where we understand it. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, is I don't I don't judge anybody for what they believe. Is but whether you respect me and are tolerant of what I'm doing. And I've seen just as much bigotry and ugliness come from people that identify in an alternate religious way towards the Christian church, as I've seen Christians
Yeah.
be towards. And
Right.
actually, and I'll say this, in the last 20 years, Christians aren't nearly as crazy about, hell and brimstone as they used to be. You see a
Mhm.
lot more tolerance, and it's
Mhm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, I've been around a lot of very negative people on the flip side of things because their church didn't accept them.
Well, even some come across people who are either atheist or are very into, you know, realism, science,
Hmm.
just I can't think of the word, but very the material world is all there is. But they can be just as much, if not more,
Hmm. Oh yeah.
dogmatic and legalistic about their beliefs than a person who is spiritual. Like they just want, so it's not,
Well,
nobody's more.
yeah. I mean, and I think that for me, I think there are too many labels in the world that we just need to, like. I need to accept Krista for Krista, and I need to accept Emily for Emily, and just hope that they accept Hadley for Hadley. You know, and that's the
Mhm.
Well,
best that we can do for each other.
like you said a minute ago, like labels do have a benefit in that it gives us a way to categorize things. It gives us a way to explain our experiences that we have had up till this moment. But to be stuck in the labels, that's I feel like that's where we get in trouble. We've got to always be, I shouldn't say we. I feel on my journey, I want to always stay open to reevaluate what my labels are, and
Mhm.
even my whole belief system. Like my thing is, when I wake up in the morning, my beliefs may change that day. I don't know.
Yeah, I firmly believe that too. That it depends on the day with me, what
Yeah.
mood you catch me in. But no, there is a great quote. I can't think of who said it. Um, which I'm not even going to try and attribute it because the two people I'm thinking of are so far removed from each other. It can't be either one of them. But it was that the only person who keeps up with my measure is my tailor. And and that's, but we change so much that, but anybody who knew me 10 years ago doesn't know me today. There's been a lot that's happened since then that changes a
Same here.
person. You
Hmm.
know, I'm not definitely not the same person I was when I was 15 years old. I'm the same person I was at 30,
Hmm.
and I hope that I'm not the same person I'll be at 60.
Right.
But so, but yeah, that's the thing. And I love that Mississippi is really embracing these types of changes. And I think it's in a
Hmm.
healthy way too.
Hmm.
So I
Yes,
guess they're like,
it's been here all along. I think it's just.
well, I mean, it's like I told you about my grandmother, my mom. My mom was one who, if we were going down the road, there was a rock, she would say, "That rock, I need to get that rock." And we had to turn the car around and go back and get this rock. And I don't know if like she heard the rock. I don't know what it was about the rock, but something about
Right.
it. And the
Right.
last time I saw you, Krista, I think I had gone into the store over in Flowood,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there was this it was a bumblebee
And I
jasper.
remember that. Yes.
I and this is a crazy story. This never happens to me. So I had seen it, and I had gone in to the store to get one of those amethyst pillars. Because this is when they were moving,
Yes.
so everything was really good price. So I was going to
Yes.
go splurge and get me one of these pillars, and I didn't really connect with any of the ones I saw. But there was this bumblebee jasper skull, and it looked at me, and I looked at it, and I thought I need to get that. And I was like, no, I don't. What do I do with a skull? And so it was like this whole thing going back and forth with the skull. And I got home and it was like I could see it in my mind's eye. I just kept seeing it. And like I said, this is not something normal for me. And I
Right.
I called and I said, "Do you still have that?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, hold it for me. I'm going to come back and get it." They said, "We'll hold it till Friday." And I think that's when I went in and I ran into you.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, and I y'all, it's so crazy because I was like, well, if I see somebody I know and I stop and talk to someone, I will know it's really meant to go home with. I was like putting all these roadblocks up, and like I ran into you and Shari, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've not just one person, but two people. And so like he's here, I call him the professor.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love that.
but
I love
he,
that. I love
it's
that.
been great to
And
have.
I was eyeing it too, not to buy. I didn't feel led. I did get me a. I don't think, no, he's not here. I took him home. I have a skull. It's a kind of a quartz skull that he comes. Sometimes he comes to the office. Sometimes he stays at home. He's staying at home today, but like I didn't feel called to get that Bumblebee Jasper skull, but every time I would walk by where it was just beautiful. I was like, you need to go home with somebody. So it found a perfect home to
He
go
worked.
to.
He's the man of the house. We're doing good.
But he's a
Yeah.
handsome dude.
Well, and that's extremely rare, and I did not realize how rare Bumblebee Jasper was. But I looked up. I mean, it was a true. I mean, I hate to say a steal. It was a steal. Like I really got a good deal on it.
And meant to be.
It was definitely. I would have paid more. But that's what I'm trying to say. Is he was coming with me one way or the other. So.
Yeah, I love that.
Your books are available on Audible and Amazon. And when do you think your release of this third book will be? Yeah.
The new book is going to be probably in the next couple of weeks, maybe before Thanksgiving.
This is the Natchez book, not the part of the Tapestry of Words. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
the
in the
Tapestry of
universe.
Worlds. I'm starting it the minute I get finished with this one, because all I've been thinking about is what I need to do in the next one. And this book will be part of that. No, if anybody wants to follow us, the Linktree Weird Realities is where to get us. And I always tell everybody that's weird with a Y. It's not a EI.
Okay.
But yeah, our website is weirdrealities.net, and that again, weird with a Y.
Well, I'll make sure to put all the information that we've talked about. I'll put it in the description.
I enjoyed it so much, Krista, Emily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right.
Have a
Bye.
good one.
You too.
The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent.